I thought one family dinner might heal old wounds, but instead, it opened the door to a nightmare I never saw coming. In one night, love turned to betrayal, pride turned to violence, and the people I trusted most revealed who they truly were. A celebration meant to mark success ended in blood, broken glass, and a truth no one could escape. What would you do if your own family became your greatest threat? Stay with me, because once you hear what happened that night in Phoenix, you'll never forget it. Where are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? I love seeing where all of you are tuning in from. Drop your city and time in the comments before we dive into the story. Hello, my name is Skylar, and I'm 35 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, a city where the sun seems to rise with a kind of golden arrogance, as if it knows it owns the sky. Until recently, I thought I had everything I'd ever wanted: a loving husband named Mark, a bright 12-year-old daughter named Lisa, and a home filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of peace I once believed could never be shaken. If someone had told me, then, that the next time I stood under that same Arizona sun, everything would fall apart, I would have laughed. But life has a cruel sense of humor. It waits until you start believing you're safe before it tears your world apart. Mark is the kind of man people don't meet often anymore: steady, loyal, and calm even when the world feels chaotic. He's a project engineer, always working with quiet focus, and never raises his voice. Whenever I lost my temper or doubted myself, he'd say, "You don't have to prove anything, Sky. Just be you." We'd been married for 14 years, and he still looked at me the same way he did on our wedding day, like he saw something worth holding on to. Lisa, our daughter, is my mirror in more ways than one. She has my brown eyes, my stubbornness, and that quiet kindness that sometimes makes her too soft for this world. She loves painting sunsets and insists every color means something different. Orange means hope, she once told me, holding up a dripping brush. Even when things look bad, the sky still tries to be beautiful. But if my home was my haven, my parents' house was a place I avoided. My father, Charles, and my mother, Donna, had always made it clear that I was the lesser child. My younger brother, Justin, was their pride, their golden boy. Ever since we were kids, Justin could do no wrong. Every achievement of mine was dismissed, every mistake of his forgiven. I grew up learning how to smile through the sting of being invisible. As adults, nothing changed. Justin became the center of their world, successful, admired, and endlessly praised. He could walk into a room, and my parents would light up like he carried the sun with him. When I walked in, their smiles dimmed, polite but cold. Mark noticed it from the beginning, but I always brushed it off, pretending it didn't hurt. "They're just old-fashioned," I used to say. "They see success differently." But the truth is, they just saw me differently. Still, I tried. Every phone call I made, every visit during the holidays, every attempt to reconnect, it was all me. I kept hoping someday they'd see me as more than the forgotten daughter who moved out and built her own life. Maybe deep down, I still wanted their approval. Maybe I wanted Lisa to have the grandparents I never really had. That's the strange thing about family. You keep reaching for love even when you know it burns. You tell yourself, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time they'll look at you and finally see you. That thought never really left me. And when the invitation came a few weeks later, a chance, they said, to celebrate Justin's new business venture, I felt something stir inside me. A fragile hope. Maybe this would be the moment things changed. Maybe this would be the night they finally saw who I truly was. I had no idea that the night I decided to attend would destroy everything I'd built, piece by piece. The invitation arrived on a quiet Thursday afternoon, tucked neatly inside a white envelope with gold trim. My mother's handwriting was unmistakable, sharp, elegant, and cold. It read, "You and Lisa are invited to Justin's business launch celebration, Blue Haven Realty, Phoenix." There was no mention of Mark, and family, just me and my daughter. I stared at it for a long time. For a moment, I couldn't decide what stung more, the fact that they'd invited me at all, or that they deliberately left my husband out. Mark found me standing in the kitchen, letter in hand, a a storm already building in my eyes. He read it once, then twice, before setting it on the counter with a quiet sigh. They didn't invite me, he said calmly. I nodded. Or my in-laws. Mark's lips twitched in a half-smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. They've made that clear for years, Sky. But maybe you should still go. I looked at him, surprised. Go? After this? It's obvious they only want to show off Justin again. He shrugged lightly. Maybe. But maybe they're also trying to make peace in their own complicated way. You've always wanted to fix things with them. This could be that chance. His words softened me. That was Mark, always seeing light where I saw shadow. My in-laws, Samantha and Brandon, agreed with him when I told them later that evening. Sweetheart, Samantha said in her gentle voice, sometimes people change when they see what they've been missing. Go. Take Lisa. Maybe they'll finally understand what they've lost. Lisa, overhearing from the living room, ran up and hugged me. Does that mean I'll get to meet Grandpa and Grandma again? She asked eagerly. I hesitated but smiled anyway. Yes, baby. Just remember to be on your best behavior, okay? She giggled. I always am. That night, after Lisa went to bed, I sat by the window staring out at the Phoenix skyline. The city lights shimmered like tiny fragments of hope scattered across the horizon. My reflection in the glass looked calm, but my thoughts weren't. I wasn't naive, I knew what kind of people my parents were. But something inside me whispered, try one more time. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe after all these years, they were finally ready to see me, not as the forgotten daughter, but as a woman who built a life they could be proud of. I folded the invitation carefully and placed it in my purse. As I turned off the lamp, I whispered to myself, this time, it'll be different. But deep down, I felt an ache I couldn't explain, a quiet warning my heart was trying to send. I didn't listen. The evening of the party arrived dressed in perfection. The sky burned in shades of gold and rose as Lisa and I pulled up to my parents' house. It wasn't the home I grew up in. Justin had convinced them to sell that years ago and move into something worthy of the family name. The new house was bigger, louder, and colder. Expensive stone walls, polished glass doors, and a driveway lined with expensive cars. It screamed wealth, but whispered emptiness. Lisa squeezed my hand as we stepped out of the car. It's beautiful, Mom, she said softly. I smiled at her innocence, though my stomach twisted. Yes, sweetheart. Beautiful, I replied, forcing my voice steady. Inside, laughter echoed through the marble-floored hallways. The scent of champagne and roses lingered in the air. The crowd was mostly strangers, businessmen, neighbors, and investors. I spotted my parents near the center, both glowing with pride as they stood beside Justin, who looked every bit the golden boy in his navy blue suit and confident grin. When my mother noticed me, her expression flickered for a second. Surprise, maybe irritation, but she quickly smoothed it over with a brittle smile. Skylar, you made it, she said, her voice dripping with forced warmth. My father gave a curt nod. It's good you could come. Justin turned, his smile widening as if this was his stage. You remember my sister, everyone, he said to the small group surrounding him. The quiet one. The guests laughed politely. My cheeks burned, but I didn't respond. Lisa stood close to me, sensing my discomfort. The centerpiece of the room caught my eye. Sitting proudly on a white marble display table was the Blue Haven Realty trophy logo. Its black metal base gleamed under the lights, the silver patterning on its stem glistening like frozen waves, and at the top, the royal blue crystal ball shimmered beautifully. The company name, Blue Haven Realty, was etched elegantly across the front. It was the kind of thing you could tell Justin was proud of. He noticed me looking. Nice, isn't it, he said, his tone smug. Cost a fortune, but worth it. It's the symbol of a new era. I nodded politely. It's beautiful. Congratulations. Finally, he said, raising his glass, something you can actually be proud of. His words hit harder than I expected, but I forced a smile. I'm always proud when my family succeeds. He smirked. Of course you are. My mother stepped closer to him, beaming. You should be, Skylar. Justin worked hard for this. I swallowed my frustration. I'm sure he did. Lisa tugged my sleeve gently. Mom, can I go see the fountain outside? She whispered. I nodded. Stay where I can see you. As she skipped away, my mother leaned in and said quietly, Try not to embarrass us tonight, dear. Her words froze me where I stood. I smiled faintly, not out of politeness, but out of the realization that despite all my hope, nothing had changed. The night felt strangely heavy, as though the air itself knew something terrible was about to happen. Laughter rang across the room, glasses clinked, and the hum of soft jazz filled every corner. But beneath the polished smiles and polite chatter, I could feel the tension simmering like a quiet flame waiting to catch. My parents stood proudly beside Justin, soaking in compliments from guests about how talented and successful their son was. I stood near the back, unnoticed, clutching a half-empty glass of sparkling water. Lisa had returned from the garden and was now standing near a table filled with desserts, her eyes sparkling as she admired the tall chocolate fountain. I smiled, grateful that at least she was enjoying herself. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe the evening would pass without incident. Then Justin's voice rose above the crowd. Everyone, he announced, raising his champagne glass high. Thank you all for coming tonight. This celebration isn't just for me, it's for what Blue Haven Realty stands for. Ambition, loyalty, and family. The irony of that last word almost made me laugh. Family. I wondered if he even knew what it meant. Standing beside him was his business partner, a tall man named Daniel Hayes. I'd met him only once before, a genuine, easygoing guy with kind eyes. He raised his glass as well, smiling warmly. To new beginnings, he said. Applause filled the room. Lisa, curious as always, edged closer to the center to see what was happening. She was small for her age, her long brown hair tied in a neat ponytail, and she looked almost angelic under the chandelier's light. She took a cautious step forward, trying to see over the crowd. And then it happened. As Daniel lowered his champagne glass, Lisa turned to move back, but someone brushed past her at that exact moment. She stumbled slightly, bumping into Daniel's arm. The glass tipped, and golden liquid spilled across his crisp white shirt and navy blazer. The sound of gasps sliced through the music. Lisa froze, her eyes wide with panic. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. But Daniel immediately smiled, shaking his head. Hey, it's okay, sweetheart. No harm done. He took a napkin from the table and dabbed at his shirt, chuckling softly. Accidents happen. His calm reaction should have ended it right there. But my parents were already glaring, and Justin, he looked like he'd been waiting for a reason to explode. What the hell, Lisa? He barked, his voice cutting through the silence. Everyone turned. The laughter, the chatter, the music, all died at once. Lisa flinched, her little hands trembling. I didn't mean to. Justin slammed his glass down on the table. You've ruined the whole moment. Do you have any idea what this means? Investors are here, cameras are here, and you can't even watch where you're going. Justin, stop, I said quickly, stepping forward. She's a child. It was an accident. My mother's voice cut in sharply. Maybe if you'd raised her with some manners, Skylar, she wouldn't embarrass us like this. Donna, I said, my throat tightening. Please. My father added coldly, you should have taught her respect. This isn't a playground. Daniel tried to calm the situation. Everyone, please. It's really not a big deal. But Justin ignored him completely. His face turned red with rage. Not a big deal? This is my company's launch. Daniel. My night. And she humiliated me in front of everyone. He spun toward Lisa, his voice rising. You little brat. I ran forward, my heart pounding. Justin, don't you dare. But before I could reach her, Justin's hand shot out. He grabbed the Blue Haven Realty trophy from the display table, the elegant black base, silver design, and the royal blue crystal ball gleaming beneath the lights. And then, in one horrifying motion, he swung it. The heavy crystal struck Lisa on the side of her head with a sharp crack. The sound was deafening. She stumbled backward, her small body collapsing onto the polished floor. For a second, there was only silence. Then came the scream, the kind that tears through the heart. I didn't even realize it was mine. Lisa. I dropped to my knees beside her, trembling. Blood trickled down from a deep cut near her temple. Oh my God, baby, look at me. It's okay, it's okay. I tried to lift her, but before I could, my mother grabbed my arm. Stay out of this, Skylar, she snapped. Out of this. I cried. She's your granddaughter. My father stepped in front of Justin, shielding him as if he were the victim. Don't you dare touch him. You're the one who brought her here. I tried to shove past them, desperate to reach my daughter, but my father pushed me. Hard. I fell, hitting the corner of the table. Pain shot through my back, but I didn't care. I crawled toward Lisa as chaos erupted. Guests shouted. Someone screamed for help. Daniel rushed forward, kneeling beside me. He pressed a napkin against Lisa's wound, his voice steady. She's bleeding, but she's breathing. Skylar, stay with her. I held her trembling hand, tears blurring my vision. Across the room, Justin stood frozen, chest heaving, the broken trophy still clutched in his hand. For a moment, he looked almost afraid of what he'd done. But it was too late. The world around me blurred into noise, shouts, gasps, the distant hum of chaos. But all I could see was Lisa lying motionless on the cold floor, her small body trembling as crimson stained her hair. I held her close, my shaking hands trying to keep pressure on the wound Daniel had covered with a napkin. My breath came in sharp, shallow bursts, my mind refusing to believe what had just happened. Justin stood a few feet away, his chest heaving, the Blue Haven Realty trophy still clutched in his trembling hand. The royal blue crystal at the top was smeared with blood, its once beautiful glow now something horrific. My mother rushed to him, grabbing his arm. Justin, it's okay, she whispered frantically. It was an accident. We'll fix this. An accident. The words hit me like poison. An accident? I snapped, my voice shaking. He hit a 12-year-old girl in the head with a metal trophy. That's not an accident, Mom. Donna turned on me, her face twisting with fury. If you'd raised her properly, none of this would have happened. I rose to my feet, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Don't you dare blame my daughter for your son's violence. My father stepped between us, his voice booming. Enough, Skylar. You always find a way to ruin everything. You should have stayed home where you belong. I could feel the weight of every guest's eyes on me, the horror, the pity, the disbelief. Someone whispered, "Call 911," and I heard the sound of a phone dialing. Daniel stayed by Lisa's side, pressing gently on her wound, his voice calm but urgent. She's losing blood. We need the paramedics now. I tried to move toward Lisa again, but my father shoved me back, his face red with rage. You've caused enough damage. I stumbled, my knees hitting the floor. For a second, the pain faded beneath something deeper. Pure, burning fury. I looked up at him and whispered, "You're protecting a monster." Justin finally dropped the trophy. It clanged against the floor, rolling slightly before coming to rest beside Lisa's hand. The blue crystal ball had cracked down the middle, splitting the company name, Blue Haven Realty, in half. It was poetic in the cruelest way. His pride had broken with his conscience. Skylar, Daniel said, glancing at me, stay with her. Don't let her close her eyes. I leaned over my daughter, brushing her hair from her face. Baby, it's okay. Mommy's here. Just keep looking at me. Her voice came out small and weak. Mom, my head hurts. Tears streamed down my face. I know, sweetheart. I know. Help's coming, okay? Just stay with me. My mother began arguing with Daniel. You have no right to interfere. This is a family matter. Daniel's voice cut sharp. A family matter? She's a child who was assaulted in front of witnesses. You're lucky the police aren't already here. Someone shouted from the doorway. They're on their way. I looked up through tears, my voice trembling but steady. Good. Because I'm done protecting any of you. My mother's mouth fell open. You wouldn't. I will. I interrupted, my tone low and final. I tried to save this family tonight. I came here, hoping for peace. But all I found was the same cruelty I grew up with. The wail of sirens began to echo outside, growing louder by the second. I felt Lisa's hand tighten weakly around mine, and I pressed my forehead to hers. It's over, I whispered. They can't hurt us anymore. And for the first time in years, I meant it. The sirens hadn't even stopped echoing when Daniel, Justin's business partner, stood tall in the center of the chaos. His calm, easygoing demeanor from earlier was gone, replaced by cold disbelief and controlled anger. His white shirt was still stained from the champagne, but now the blotch of blood on his sleeve, from where he'd helped Lisa, stood out like a wound on his conscience. He looked at Justin, who stood pale and trembling, his hands shaking as if reality was finally starting to sink in. The broken Blue Haven Realty trophy lay on the floor between them, its royal blue crystal cracked in two, a painful metaphor for everything Justin had destroyed in a single violent moment. Daniel's voice cut through the murmurs of the guests. I've seen a lot of ugly things in business, he said evenly, but nothing as disgusting as this. Justin looked up, his face streaked with sweat. Daniel, listen, it was a mistake. No, Daniel interrupted sharply. That wasn't a mistake. That was rage. That was ego. He pointed toward the broken trophy. That's who you are, Justin. You don't build things, you destroy them. My parents moved closer to Justin, still trying to manage the scene. My mother placed a trembling hand on Daniel's arm. Please, she whispered. You don't understand. My son didn't mean it. He's under stress, the company. The company? Daniel repeated, his tone icy. You think I care about your company after this? I don't want my name associated with a man who attacks a child. The room fell silent. The only sound was Lisa's faint breathing and the distant wail of sirens closing in. Daniel exhaled deeply, his disappointment cutting deeper than his anger. I was proud to start this business with you, he said, looking straight at Justin. You had potential, Justin. But now it's gone. Whatever Blue Haven Realty was supposed to stand for, it died the second you lifted that trophy. Justin's voice cracked. You can't just walk away. We have investors' contracts. I can, Daniel said firmly. And I am. He turned toward me, his expression softening. Skylar, I'm so sorry. I tried to stop it. I swallowed hard, my voice low but steady. You did more than anyone else here. Thank you for helping my daughter. He nodded, then turned back to the crowd. To everyone here, let it be known that I, Daniel Hayes, am withdrawing from Blue Haven Realty effective immediately. I want no part in this nightmare. And with that, he took his coat, wrapped it around his wife's shoulders, and walked out of the house without another word. His footsteps echoed against the marble floor until the door slammed shut. In that instant, Justin's empire, his pride, his future, crumbled just like the trophy at his feet. But he still didn't look at Lisa. Not once. The sound of sirens grew louder until red and blue lights flooded through the living room windows, painting the marble walls in flashes of justice and fear. Guests quickly moved aside as two police officers entered the house, followed closely by paramedics with medical bags in hand. The tension snapped like a wire. Everyone, step back, one officer commanded, his voice firm but calm. Who called it in? A woman from the crowd raised her hand shakily. I did, she said. That man, she pointed at Justin, he hit the little girl with that trophy. The officer followed her finger to the shattered Blue Haven Realty logo lying on the floor, blood still glistening on its cracked blue crystal. His jaw tightened. Paramedics, over here, he called out, motioning to Lisa. Two medics knelt beside her immediately, replacing the napkin with gauze and checking her pulse. She's stable but needs immediate hospital care, one of them said. We're taking her now. I held Lisa's hand as they prepared the stretcher. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered through tears. I'm right here. I'll be right behind you. Her eyelids fluttered weakly, and she tried to squeeze my hand. Ma'am, one of the officers said, stepping toward me. Are you her mother? Yes, I said, my voice trembling. He nodded gently. We'll need your statement, but for now, stay close to your daughter. Across the room, Justin tried to speak. Look, officer, this is just a misunderstanding. But Daniel, who had lingered by the doorway, cut in sharply. No misunderstanding. Everyone here saw what happened. Other guests nodded. Some spoke up at once. He hit her. It was deliberate. She didn't do anything wrong. The officer turned to Justin. Sir, I'm going to need you to put your hands where I can see them. My mother stepped forward, panic rising in her voice. Wait. You can't arrest him. He's my son. It was an accident. The officer didn't even flinch. Ma'am, please step back. My father tried next. You don't know who we are. The officer interrupted flatly. I don't care who you are, sir. A child was assaulted. You're all witnesses or accomplices, depending on what we learn next. My father froze. Then the officer's tone hardened. Justin Moore, you are under arrest for aggravated assault and endangering the welfare of a minor. Gasps filled the room. My mother's hand flew to her mouth as the officer cuffed Justin's wrists behind his back. You can't do this, she cried. I just did, he said. As they led Justin away, the paramedics began moving Lisa's stretcher toward the door. I stood up, shaking but determined. I'm going with her. The officer nodded. We'll take your full statement at the hospital. We'll also need your parents to come in for questioning. I turned toward my mother and father, my voice cold as steel. I warned you both. You defended a criminal. Now you'll answer for it. They didn't reply. For the first time, they looked afraid, not of me, but of the truth finally catching up to them. The ambulance raced through the Phoenix streets, sirens slicing the night open. I sat beside Lisa's stretcher, clutching her hand as paramedics worked quickly, checking her vitals and keeping pressure on her wound. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, and every second felt like an eternity. Stay with me, baby, I whispered. Her face was pale, her lashes damp from tears. The medic beside me looked up and gave a small, reassuring nod. She's stable, ma'am. You got her help just in time. I closed my eyes, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude, something I hadn't done in years. When we arrived at Phoenix General Hospital, doctors rushed her into the emergency ward. I followed as far as I could until a nurse stopped me. Ma'am, please wait outside. We'll update you soon. The hallway felt endless. I sank into one of the hard plastic chairs, my hands trembling in my lap. Everything from the party replayed in my mind. The sound of glass breaking, Lisa's scream, Justin's face twisted in rage, my parents' indifference. For the first time, I allowed myself to cry. Not the quiet tears I'd learned to hide over the years, but the kind that come from somewhere deep, somewhere final. Skylar, a familiar voice called. I looked up and saw Mark running toward me. His face was pale, his jaw tight. Samantha and Brandon followed close behind. The moment Mark saw me, he wrapped his arms around me tightly. I broke down completely in his embrace. She's inside, I sobbed. He hit her, Mark, with that trophy. He didn't even hesitate. Mark's eyes darkened. Where is he now? The police arrested him, I said, my voice shaking. And they took my parents too for defending him. Mark exhaled slowly, trying to keep his anger contained. Good. They deserve it. Samantha put a hand on my shoulder, her voice trembling. We saw the news alert. They said an assault happened at a private event. Was it really your brother? I nodded. He lost control, and my parents helped him instead of stopping him. Brandon clenched his fists. Then they'll face the consequences. The state won't let this go. A doctor appeared at the end of the hall, still wearing gloves stained faintly with blood. My heart stopped until he gave a small smile. Your daughter is going to be okay. The injury looked bad, but there's no brain damage. We've stitched the wound and given her medication to reduce swelling. She'll need rest and observation for a few days. The strength left my legs as relief washed over me. Mark caught me before I could collapse. I covered my mouth with my hand, tears spilling again. But this time, they were tears of gratitude. "Can I see her?" I asked. The doctor nodded. "She's awake now. Just keep her calm." Inside the room, Lisa looked small but safe beneath white hospital sheets. Her eyes fluttered open when she saw me. "Mom." I sat beside her, stroking her hair gently. "I'm here, baby. You're safe now. I promise they'll never hurt you again." Mark stood behind me, his voice steady but filled with quiet rage. "And I'll make sure of that." 2 weeks later, Phoenix Superior Court was filled with the weight of silence. The air felt sharp, heavy with the kind of tension that only comes when justice and shame share the same room. I sat at the witness stand, my palms pressed together, the sound of Lisa's heartbeat monitor from the hospital still echoing in my mind. She was home recovering now, her head wrapped in white bandages. But I was here for her, to make sure the people who hurt her faced the truth. Across the courtroom sat Justin, my brother. His once proud face was pale and hollow, his wrists still marked from the handcuffs he'd worn at the arrest. My parents sat beside him at the defense table, both looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. My mother kept her eyes down. My father stared straight ahead, expression frozen. The prosecutor, a firm but kind woman named Andrea Lewis, stood and addressed the court. The state of Arizona charges the defendant, Justin Moore, with aggravated assault on a minor, use of a deadly object, and reckless endangerment. The evidence, witnesses, and medical reports confirm that the act was intentional and violent. Her words hit the room like steady hammer blows. The defense tried to paint it as a moment of emotional distress, claiming Justin had panicked. But their argument fell apart as witnesses testified, Daniel, several guests, even the caterer who'd seen it all. Each story matched mine. There was no accident. There was rage. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and looked at the judge. "Your Honor, I came to that party hoping to rebuild my relationship with my family. I wanted peace. But what I found was cruelty, directed not just at me, but at my innocent daughter. My brother didn't lose control for a second. He made a choice. And my parents defended that choice instead of protecting their granddaughter." Justin shifted uncomfortably, refusing to meet my gaze. My mother began to cry softly, but it was too late. I'd cried enough for all of us. The judge, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and calm authority, looked directly at Justin. "The evidence against you is overwhelming. You assaulted a child in front of dozens of witnesses. This court sentences you to 5 years in state prison without the possibility of early parole." Gasps echoed in the room. My mother sobbed harder, clinging to my father's arm. The judge turned to them next. "And as for Charles and Donna Moore, your obstruction of justice and interference with law enforcement will not be overlooked. You are each sentenced to 2 years in county jail with mandatory family counseling upon release." I closed my eyes, feeling a strange mix of pain and peace. Justice had spoken. As the guards led them away, Justin finally looked at me, his eyes filled with something between anger and regret. I didn't flinch. I just whispered, "You made your choice." When I stepped outside the courthouse, the Arizona sun felt different, hot, bright, but cleansing. For the first time in my life, I felt free. 6 months later, life in Phoenix felt quieter, different, but in the best way. The chaos that once haunted every thought had faded into something softer, something peaceful. Our home was filled again with laughter, warmth, and the comforting rhythm of ordinary days. Lisa had healed beautifully. The scar near her hairline was barely visible now, a small reminder of everything we had survived. Every morning, she'd sit by the kitchen window doing her homework while sunlight spilled across the counter. Mark would brew his coffee, humming some tune under his breath. I'd stand there watching them both, realizing how fragile and precious peace really is. Sometimes Lisa asked about my parents and Justin. "Are they still in jail?" she'd say, her voice small but curious. "Yes," I'd answer honestly. "And they'll be there for a while." She'd nod, thinking for a moment. "Do you hate them?" That question always made me pause. "No," I'd say finally. "I don't hate them, but I can't forgive them either." Some things you just have to let go, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Mark would place a hand on my shoulder then, his quiet strength grounding me. You did what you had to do, Sky. You protected her, and that's what matters. Blue Haven Realty never recovered after the scandal. The story made headlines for weeks. Phoenix business launch ends in assault scandal. Daniel Hayes went on to start his own company, and from what I heard, it was thriving. Sometimes I'd see billboards with his new firm's name, a reminder that decency still had a place in the world. We stayed away from the media storm and focused on rebuilding our lives. The hospital bills, court hearings, and sleepless nights were behind us. What remained was a kind of strength I never knew I had, the kind that comes only after losing everything you thought was unbreakable. One Saturday evening, Mark surprised me with dinner reservations downtown. Anniversary, he said with that familiar grin. You didn't think I'd forget, did you? We got dressed up. Lisa insisted on helping me pick my dress, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt light again. At the restaurant, candles flickered on white linens, and soft music played in the background. Mark raised his glass. To us, he said. To survival. To second chances. I smiled through tears. And to peace, I whispered. That night, when we returned home, Lisa was already asleep, curled up with the stuffed bunny she'd had since she was a baby. I stood by her door for a long moment, listening to her steady breathing, the sound that now meant everything to me. I used to think justice was about punishment, but now I understand. It's about reclaiming your life from the people who tried to destroy it. As I turned off the lights, the city outside glowed under the Arizona moon, and for the first time in years, my heart was completely still. The storm was over. Thank you for watching this story till the end. If Skylar's journey touched your heart, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who believes in justice, strength, and second chances. Your support means the world and helps us bring more powerful stories every week. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next story. This was The Peace After the Storm, a reminder that healing begins the moment you choose yourself.
See you in the next video.